Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Hello, and welcome to Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast. I'm your host, John Johnson, and I'm going to be talking about the good ones that slip away. Now, we've all had relationships where we've experienced the goodness of being around people we admire, and we find ourselves drawn to lots of people. And in that experience, sometimes we wish we could be in that relationship with that person because they seem to be very charismatic. They have things together. And maybe we feel like we could learn from them. And they're just really interesting people. And I think we're going to experience that many, many times in life. And that's something that inspires us to be more of ourselves, because then you may wind up changing your whole dynamic, the people that you hang around, because from the beginning, you have people that you are matched up with. Let's say when you're in school, you're in elementary school or high school or whatever, you're in a group. And that group is in the same classroom. As that social circle expands, you meet other people who might be more of, let's say, more interesting to you, more of your type, let's say. It's not something that you're forced into, but you come across these very interesting souls. And you gravitate towards that because obviously there's something in it that draws you there. And if you have other social groups that you might become involved with, then you have more and more contacts. And then, as you can see, it becomes exponential. Well, when we find ourselves around people who are, let's say, very charismatic, someone that we're drawn to, then, we tend to like to figure out, well, what makes them tick? We don't always know what attracts us, but when it does, then we're just drawn there. And sometimes we do go through that self-analysis and say, wow, it's, I know what I like about that person. That person really has their facts together, or that person is really kind, or that person is able to handle difficult situations, or that person was exceptionally nice to me, and maybe I didn't deserve it. Maybe I came off in a really, not such a nice way, and that person was able to turn that whole situation around and help me see something about myself that I didn't realize. But whatever it is, these kinds of people come and go, and it's about how do we keep those kinds of individuals in our life. And if the possibility is maybe we're interested in having that kind of person be our partner, what do we do to attract those kind of people, and how do we help them stay? Because I think we've seen this experience where they come into our existence and then they leave. Well, sometimes what I have seen is that we have not made a commitment to improve ourselves. Sometimes we look at it as though we're going to let that person lead us to the promised land, so to speak, rather than learning what your strengths are. That is, what makes you attractive? What would make you an interesting person, just like you find that individual interesting? But having something that you are passionate about makes you charismatic, and you will find people drawn towards you. Maybe the same kinds of individuals that you are attracted to, they find you. So you don't always actually have to be out on the hunt, so to speak. They will come to you, as build it and they will come. Another something to consider is, as these individuals show up in your experience, it's nice if you get a one-on-one opportunity to converse with them. Well, I believe in letting these people know how much of an impact they've had on your life. Now, this isn't a groupie kind of thing. It's nothing like that. I think when powerful people show up, and when I say powerful, I mean somebody that is impactful on your life, and you get the opportunity to speak to them. Maybe it's a personal coach. Maybe it's somebody that gives a lecture, and afterwards they're autographing books or signing programs or something like that. You get an opportunity to be in the presence of these individuals. Maybe for whatever reason you were drawn to be there, and then you hear something that's profound. I think you should take note of that and share that. Now, if these individuals that you are drawn to are attached in their life to another partner, so to speak, well, you're not going to be able to interfere in that. So that's not an option for you. But what is possible is maybe the individuals that have shown up for something like this, they might be people who could be potential partners. Because in this show, the relationship show, I'm talking about not only relationships, but how you can bring people into your life that may become a partner for you in some way, maybe a life partner, maybe a business partner, or something of that way. But when these individuals show up and you make your feelings known about the impact that they've had on you, believe me, they like that. They like knowing that they've had a positive impact on you. I don't know anyone who has been, who's had the experience of wanting to be a positive impact on people and not wanting to hear about that. I myself have had the opportunity to pay it forward many times, whether it's just letting somebody in front of me in traffic just so that they can be on their way. You know, all of these things have an impact on someone else. And when you think of it in those terms, they give me a wave. Hey, thank you. Cause who knows what kind of day they've had. Maybe they've just, they could be in a rush. But the idea is when you make an impact on someone, you like to know. You like to know what you're doing that works. And these people are the same way. Whether it's the person who's handling the Sunday school, or maybe it's the crossing guard at the elementary school, or maybe it's somebody that happened to have stepped in and was rescuing somebody else because they were having a difficult day. We all like to know these things. And when you are gracious enough to give your endorsement to that, give your voice of appreciation, it makes us all feel good. And it is very contagious when you give your endorsement to things that are powerful in nature like that. We all want to be a part of that. That's great. I think we're easily seduced by all of the negative things that go on around us. And we know that there's positive things out there because we've experienced it from time to time. But how do you be the genesis of that? This is one of the ways in which you do it. Do it with your voice. Use your energy for as a positive voice of reflection, and don't get caught up in the negative stuff that happens. I mean, we know it's out there, but just don't let yourself get caught up in it. Don't let your voice be energy to all of that negative stuff. And it's simple enough to say, but it's really important that you hear yourself when you're going that direction. And here's an example of something that's really easy to get caught up in. You overhear a conversation about something that's happened. You might know a little bit about it, but the individuals involved in the conversation are really in a gripe session. Now, it might be really easy for you to chime in because you have probably experienced something similar. But here's where I want you to pause. Whatever you've experienced, is it really going to matter right now? It's not. Mostly, you have already processed it. You are on your way to do something else. And to just chime into this conversation really spends your time doing what? Probably nothing of your benefit or the benefit of anyone else, other than that now you've formed a consensus. You and everyone else is in that conversation are all in agreement. But what you're in agreement about is an idea, the facts of which could vary from situation to situation. And what I want you to remember about yourself is that you can make a choice to pay it forward in a way that you want to talk about positive things because that's what you want for you. and stay out of the negative conversation. You just don't even have to participate. And I suggest that you avoid it because it's not something that you want to spend your time doing. I'm looking at my time. I need to take a break, and I will come back and I'll talk about this some more.
GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast gives you advice on everything from hair to fashion to skincare products. We'll talk about the latest trends in makeup, hairstyles, and anti-aging remedies. And we'll cover all of the newest fashion trends. If you have an interest in or questions about the beauty trends that might work best for you, the Golden State Media Concepts Beauty Tips Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Beauty Tips Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith.
An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Hello and welcome back to Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast. I'm John Johnson, talking about good ones slip away. Now, in the first segment, I mentioned something about charismatic people and the impact that they have on us and acknowledging their contribution and, ways in which we do that really helps them feel important. And this is not a groupie kind of thing. This is really knowing, say, for example, I've been to seminars in which people are motivational speakers, and it's nice that they have committed themselves to wanting to see other people do better. I mean, there's something altruistic about that. They do it because they want to see people happy, but it makes them feel good because a lot of people themselves have achieved a certain level of success and they want other people to share in that. And I think when you find, one of the things that you find about success is it's not always about you. Being successful encompasses a lot of effort from a lot of different people, and being able to pay that forward, being able to share that information, that knowledge, that wealth, whatever it is, whether it's information, whether it's money, whatever it is, because you can't possibly keep it all for yourself. I mean, for the one individual who thinks, and I'm just paraphrasing here, the one individual who thinks that they can hoard all the information, keep it to themselves, and never share, how selfish is that? How is it going to benefit them when they die? It's not. You get more from something when you can share it with other people. They can take it and go to the next level with it. And I think when you see that you can be the foundation for another person to do something great for themselves, their life, their family, or the people that they influence, that's powerful. And I think really charismatic people understand that. So the feeling deserving of being in that position, and I want to talk about this, is it takes some work, because we have in our experience as human beings, we see and we're surrounded by negativity. We're told that we can't do this, we can't do that. We're told no about a lot of stuff. And there are reasons we're told no. We're told no because some things aren't safe. Okay? You ride a bicycle, but it's one thing when you're riding it along the sidewalk, you got your training wheels on, but then as soon as you point that bike towards the street, they say, no. So you hear that. It's not that they don't want you to ride your bike, but they don't want you to go out and get yourself hurt. But what do you hear in your mind? And that's something from childhood. You're told no a lot. Well, when it comes to what do we recycle? We recycle what we have been given. And as we grow up and mature, we have many other experiences, and some of them are great, and some of them we have in our own, say, in our own private space where we learn something and we say, "Oh, I'll never do that again." And we get to kind of hide our shame around something like that. But it's good to go out and have the kinds of experiences that make you feel good about yourself so that you feel sort of a positive reinforcement instead of a negative reinforcement. And I think this goes to the genesis of why, when you're trying to accomplish something, why some people don't stick to it. Because there is a lot to learn in order to be successful. To be successful at anything means that you're going to have to go through a lot of experiences. And those experiences teach you the direction in which you can take something and then build upon it. That's a good thing. That's supposed to happen. You can't have success unless you've had failures. And I say it that way respectfully. And failures aren't always bad. Failures may just not be what you were necessarily looking to achieve. But then, even in the experience of that, you should be able to learn something. Maybe it takes you on a different trajectory. That's a part of life also. But back to the deserving part. And it's really about staying focused on something that's meaningful, learning and growing along the way, and feeling and learning how to accept yourself. Oftentimes we look to other people to validate us in saying you're worthy, you are good enough. And that could be very few and far between. But when you think about how people who have achieved something, what they've experienced along the way, a lot of them have had help. A lot of them have had tutors, coaches, mentors, those kinds of things. And it's sort of to help them not have to reinvent the wheel. And if you haven't had that kind of experience, then there is something that you're missing. So sometimes you have to seek something out, whether it's reading a book or finding that person who has that charisma and seeing how they operate. And I could say it this way. Being successful, how many people do you know that have been really, really good at playing the piano did so without at least a piano teacher at some point in time? Some sort of coaching, some sort of influence that made an impact on them. I mean, even self-taught musicians, at least they will listen to music of people that inspire them, and that inspiration helps keep their head in the game, helps keep them working at it, working at the nuances until it's what they want. And that appreciation for what they're doing comes from within. That happens all the time. I know many musicians who have gone that route. They're self-taught. And then, a lot of them have gone on and they've had formal training and have learned from other musicians that they hang around. So there is that charisma thing happening. There might be a person who is talented musically, and you're inspired to sit down and listen to them and watch them and trade ideas with them, and then you go and practice and rehearse it yourself. So when the moment comes that you are in the spotlight, you have your stuff put together. And if in feeling deserving, it might happen at that moment when you're in the spotlight, people see you, and then they want to come to you and tell you how well you've done. Those are wonderful, magical moments. But before you get to that place in the experience, you've had to have at least been strong enough in your character and in your will, your desire to do what you're doing, in spite of all of the negative stuff that could be surrounding you. And sometimes you just have to be deaf to all of that because it really serves as a distraction. So putting that stuff aside and really focusing on the good, and this might even be for some people a spiritual experience, because you get connected to yourself. You feel like you're really handling your business. You can respect yourself, you honor yourself, and I say stay with it, because there will come a moment when you get to be in the spotlight. And if that's what you're living for, if you want to have that opportunity to shine, it will happen for you. But you got to earn it. You have to work for it, so that when it happens, it's well-deserved, and you can take your bow and really, really feel good about it. But feeling like you have earned it is where the real satisfaction comes from, because it won't happen when somebody gives it to you. So I'm giving you the information right now that it's worth taking a shot and investing in yourself. And here's something. It doesn't matter your age. If you're young, great. You have a lot of time to work on things. If you're older, hey, every day is the first day of the rest of your life. You can start today and pick up a new idea, something you want to do. Play the guitar. Go roller skating. Try that for a while. Bicycle riding. Whatever it is that interests you, pick it up and start doing it. Because you're going to take baby steps. You're going to crawl. You're going to make the mistakes until you get better at it. And you will get better as long as you commit to it. I see I'm going to have to take a break now. I will be back, and then I'll wrap this up. Stay tuned.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Hi there. Welcome back once again to Golden State Media Concepts, a relationships podcast. I'm John Johnson, talking about good ones and slipping away. So the first segment, I talked about charismatic people and acknowledging them. And second segment, I mentioned about how you can be one of those in your own life. And since that this is the relationship program, I'm going to talk a little bit about how charismatic people, powerful people, interesting people, or people that you have loved in some way, shape, or form have probably come through your life, and maybe at one time you wished that they would have stayed, but they moved on, and why that might have been the case. The thing about this, and it's, you have to know your worth. And when you are connected to something, let's say for whatever period of time, let's just say you meet someone and, think about it in this realm. There is some interest, there's some chemistry, and you guys tend to work out the details in the relationship, whether it's how much time you're going to spend together, the things that you want to do together, and you learn about each other in those interactions. It takes knowing and understanding what commitment is, and I think that's one of the things that you learn about a person, not just by what they say, but how they behave. And people that know their worth understand commitment intuitively, if not always in a way that they can put it into words, but they know what it feels like to be in the presence of someone that makes them feel good. And I'm going to suggest that you feel good because, somebody makes you feel good in their presence. That's something that's important. So if you're thinking about charisma and attraction, think about that. Making somebody feel good in your presence is as important as you liking them. Because when people have a good experience around you, they're going to want to repeat them. So I say that as an aside because you see all kinds of videos about people talking about, okay, well, when they look at you this way or when their body faces you this way, then, you have an opportunity to move in and develop a connection. Yeah, there's lots of that. But I think underneath all of that, that's probably about trying to at least get a little bit of their attention. But remember, it's about how people feel when they are in your presence. Do you make them feel important? Do you make them feel special? They will stay. Now, I talk about good ones slip away. And as I previously mentioned, good ones, they probably know their worth. And if they don't feel like they are being given their due, then they're going to go find someone who wants to commit to them the things that they feel are important. So you're going to need to find out what they value and honestly find out if it's actually something that parallels what you feel. If you might find yourself being one of these individuals that's really ambivalent, or you get cold feet, or the minute you get something, then you feel like you want something else, or you might have a hard time with that. And there are lots of people that have that same feeling. I mean, how many times have you had a situation where you had a commitment to do something? I mean, it was the other person's idea. Then as soon as you committed to it, then the next thing you start seeing or getting a sense that they're starting to back out. Well, when you do this in a relationship sense, realize that there's a lot of emotions attached to this. And people don't want to feel like they're being let down. So if you're one of these individuals that has a tendency to ramp it up, to raise the stakes, and then when it's time to show up, then you tend to back out or back down, well, you're one of those individuals that's letting good ones slip away. And you have to take a look at why that's happening. I could talk about that in a different show, because that's a whole different topic about making commitments and then backing out of them. But I want you to see yourself in this process. And if you've had lots of people or several people that have come through your experience, and say, they were somebody that you really, really wanted to keep in your life, what did you do that might have pushed them away? I know you generally don't want to do things until you're ready for commitment, ready to invest, those kinds of things. But that's part of life. Sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith, and that can be really, really difficult for a lot of people. And if you've had bad experiences, you've had a lot of negative experiences, yeah, you're going to be afraid. But that being afraid is a part of life also. And when you go through that fear, you come out the other side, you will be stronger for it. I think one of the important things to do in a case like that is really know that it's fear that you're feeling and being able to verbalize that. And if you have this significant other or this person who is really important in your life and you're having these relationship discussions, put that out there. Be clear about it. There's nothing to fear about putting your feelings out, talking openly and honestly about it, because people appreciate that. That is so refreshing. So many people flip that, and then they not talk about their own fears, but they talk about what the other person does. So it's like they're pointing at them saying, you need to do this, that, and the other to make me feel better. Well, what's really happening is that inside you don't have the confidence to lay it out on the line and to be vulnerable. And I know being vulnerable is hard, but again, that's part of the human condition. That's part of the experience. That's part of the deal you get when you're a human being, is that you got to be vulnerable. You got to be willing to make sacrifices. You got to be willing to speak your piece, and know that when you do those things, you can have a reasonable expectation that you should get the same. And if you don't, then you be the one to walk away, because you'll be the good one that slipped away. And we all learn from this process, and it can happen many, many times before we, quote unquote, get it right. So take stock in the fact that you're living a life, and there's lots of opportunities to learn every single day about this. And as you go through the process of finding the charismatic people and acknowledging them, see, that's a good thing to do, because it's not about you. It's really, well, in a sense, that because you have feel good feelings, but it's about sharing the good word of, wow, you know what? You're a powerful person. You're great. I'm glad that I've learned something. Own what you've learned, and then take it to the next level for yourself. And as you get out there and start sharing the goodness that you have, then people will find you interesting and attractive, and it'll give you ample opportunity to not only experience the love of other people, but then to be able to pay it forward even more. And you will learn, like in this last segment of what I've talked about yourself and being vulnerable, and how freeing that is, not having to think all the time about being afraid, but just being able to speak your truth and knowing that you will be accepted for who you are. That is a blessing. That is one of the most wonderful things that you can come to know in your life, because you can use that as one of the building blocks. And that's your truth. That's your honesty. And people respect that because it is genuine and is authentic. I'm John Johnson. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.